Hi, welcome to Dog Walk Storytelling. The old man stepped down onto the hill, bowed and low, walking slowly against the howling wind, through the trees, through the forest, down the hill, step by step down the path. He walked slowly, bent and old, tired. Ahead in the distance, in the dark, he saw a light shining against the cliff face ahead. And as he walked further and further through the woods, the wind blowing against him, almost knocking him from his feet, he pushed on and on towards the light, on and on, until at last he reached the mouth of a cave. In the flickering firelight of the cave, the old man stood in the doorway, and looking within saw, seated by a crackling fire, an old woman watching him back with shining eyes from the depths of the cave. And as the old man stumbled forward and fell through the door of the cave, the woman leapt up and caught him in her arms and lifted him as if he were no heavier than a child, carried him back to her seat, sat with him on her lap. And she sat, she stroked his hair, and she cooed softly to him, saying, "Hey now, there now, hey now, there now." And as she sat by the fire and she stroked the old man's hair, his breathing began to settle. His body began to relax, and as she held him, she began to feel the weakness in him leave. She began to feel the hair under her hand as she stroked his head, saying, "There now, oh now, there now." She felt the hair begin to grow from his scalp again and thicken. She felt his arms, his legs begin to grow heavier as more flesh seemed to grow upon them under the aged skin. She said, "Whoa there, hey there." She stroked his hair and she held him close like a child. As his hair regained its fiery colour, golden in the light, and his arms swelled until the muscles began to stand out, as the lines faded from his face, as all the etchings of care and worry were released from his skin. She said, "Whoa now, there now." And on this went, and on, as he grew to the fullness of a man in his prime, still sat in her lap like a child in the firelight. She stroked his hair and said, "Oh there, hey there, now there." And he settled in against her, and his hair took on the golden shine of youth. The vitality of his limbs spoke of a young man just coming into his prime. And still she stroked his hair and she said, "Oh there, hey there, now there." Until in her arms she felt his body begin to get lighter again, and his limbs began to shrink, and his face began to become chubby like that of a child. And still she stroked his hair and she said, "Oh there, now there." And then as he began to wriggle and squirm like a small child in her lap, no larger than a toddler, with shining hair and a smile on his sleeping face, she plucked first one, then two, then three golden hairs from his head and cast them into the fire. And with that, Boy's eyes opened wide, and he gave another laugh, and he leapt from her lap, and he ran from the cave, leaping over the fire, and he ran out of the cave, down from the cliff, down to the path. He ran down through the woods, down the path, back the way he had come, up the hill, further and further and further, until he reached the very top. And then, in the light of a new day as it began, he leapt up into the sky and shone once more. The end. Thank you. I'm Dan Goodfellow. This has been a dog walk storytelling.